Well, good morning. It's day 2 of the 2010 Forester build. Uh, Last night I had some technical difficulties with some batteries, and I had to finish some stuff off camera, but I will go over a variety of things that I've done since the last time we talked yesterday. I already got the passenger side head back on from yesterday. Everything's been resealed, new tube seals, new valve cover gaskets. Spark plugs are back in it. The AVLS solenoids are back on. Brackets are back on. Cams back on. Cam seals. Cam gears back on. New head gaskets in it. Heads torqued on. We'll go ahead and do the driver side today, and I'll go through everything that I missed yesterday. On this side, it's just identical. It's just the opposite side, so we're going to go through that one today. So we'll get this valve cover off, we'll get and a couple other things out of the way, and we'll get this head off. Yep, intakes.
Intake.
Yep. Looks like we have bent intake valves on this head. On the opposite side, we had number 3 exhaust bent valves that we already replaced and lapped in new ones. So we'll have to do lap in new intakes on the driver's side. Go ahead and break torque on these. I got my dipstick loose. I'm not going to remove the cam gear or the rear timing cover. We'll just go ahead and pull the head the way it is. There's a torque sequence you have to, when you're removing the head, you have to do the same as you're torquing it, but in reverse. So what you're going to do is you're going to start in the middle, right, and do top, bottom, upper right, bottom left, bottom right, top left. But we're taking the head off, so we're going to be doing the opposite. So it'll be this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. Same as before, these all go in the back in the same spots they came out of. Just like that. Oh, these ones got hit too. All the exhausts got hit. So let's get in here and see what we see. Alrighty then. As you can see, exhaust. Both have witness marks at the bottom. Witness marks on intake. Right there on both of those. This side looks good. And both witness marks. So this side got 3 sets of valves. Both intake on number 4, both exhaust on number 4, and both exhausts on number 2, but intakes are good. looking at these, you can see the witness marks here, in there, in there, in there, and I'm not seeing any on there. So we will, oh, there they are right there. That one's definitely hit right there, see it? And that one looks good. So we'll go through and check and see how bad those are. We'll be going through this head just like the same way that we did the other. Before we pull these other two out, we need to remove the locks for the AVLS. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the preload off the AVCLS. You excited to do more project then?
Yeah.
You think it should be pretty fun?
Yeah.
So, how much do you think you got left on the Volvo?
I still got gas sender,
Yeah.
fuel sender, and I need to get that, and then run some line from the fuel line up to the fuel pump.
Yeah.
Put a filter in there.
When are you gonna get that thing running?
Probably just next spring.
Yeah. Does the engine turn over pretty well and everything? You don't have any issues there?
It spins, yeah.
Yeah. What engine's in that?
It's a 1.6 liter, 4-cylinder,
Yeah. It's a 5-speed or 4-speed?
4-speed. Yeah, 1959. They didn't have 5 speeds back then.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
You know. So now that we got the exhaust rocker assemblies out of the way, we can go ahead and get our spring compressors and get all these springs off of here, pull the valve seals off, and start getting new valves in and getting those lapped in. So the fun part begins. So start removing these ones that we know for a fact are bent, which it looks like we have one intake that on number 4 that looks good. This is just a regular valve spring compressor. So we'll get this one off. Here is my magnet here. one keeper. There's number 2. Put our keepers off to the side. We need to make sure that the valve springs go back in the same hole they came out of. That comes out of the way. This is our valve spring and our retainer. We'll go ahead and pull this intake valve out. As you can see, she's bent. I don't know if you can see that all that well. I got a black t-shirt on. But see that? She's bent. So what we'll do is we'll start getting new valves lapped in, and we'll get new valve seals in it. You want a Subaru bent valve for a Sylvaner? Amazing. This is a milling part number V5806. These are our intake valves. As you can see, they're not bent. So that's what happens when you get a broken timing belt. Interference engines. So we'll go ahead and pull this valve seal since we're already removing this. They're also, these are Felpros. Alrighty. So, like I said, this is a brand new valve. And what we're going to do is we're going to lap these in. These heads only got 8,000 miles on them. So the valve seat should be ground to the proper 3-angle grind. And we should be able to just lap these in. Now, if you have heads that have 100,000 plus miles on them, it would be better to send them off to a machine shop and have them do a 3-angle grind on not only the valves, but also on the seats. And if you have a turbo Subaru, that is definitely a must, because you do not want any kind of valve leak when dealing with boosted application. So we're going to test fit it, which it fits perfectly in there. So that's the right size. So what we're going to do next is get our lapping compound. I'm going to clean the bottom of this really well, the best I can. And then we're going to coat the valve seat and the bottom of the valve with some dye that will let us know where our wear pattern is, and then we'll use some valve lapping compound, and I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. It should be dead center of the valve, and it should be sealing all the way around. So let me clean this up, get everything all prepped, and then I'll be right back and I'll show you everything that I've done. Alright, I have our new intake valve. I've already put dye on our valve seat. We have some lapping compound and our valve lapping tool. We're going to go ahead and lap this one valve in, and then I'll do the rest off camera, just because it's time consuming. You don't need to sit. Once you do one, you can do them all the same way. There's no difference. So I'm going to do this one with you, and then I'll do the other ones that are all damaged, and then I'll give you an idea of what it all looks like when it's all done. Alright? So let's get started. Alright, so what I have done is I've put a dye that goes around the valve seat here. That way when we put our lapping compound in, you will be able to see where the wear pattern is, and you want it dead center of that valve seat, and you also want it dead center of that valve. So we'll go ahead and get these lapped in, and I'll show you what it looks like. So what we'll do is I'll take our
valve lapping compound. And we're gonna go ahead and put it right across this right here, like this. And this has a grit in it. You'll see it has a grit, like sand in it. You want to coat that area right there all the way from the inside to the outside of the grind there. All right, then we're going to slide this in here like that. Then we're going to take our valve lapping tool, and we're going to stick it to the top of this, and we're just gonna got lapping compound on it. It won't seal. Come on, center you. There we go. This tool is not very good. Should stay on there pretty well. Alright, let's see how that looks. What we'll do is we'll slide this back out, and we'll wipe the valve lapping compound off, and it should give us a witness mark of how the valves are sealing. I don't know if you can see all that well, but see how there's a dull spot right down the center of that right there. And that's what you want to see all the way around the valve, as an even mark all the way around. Same thing with the valve seat. There is a perfect ring all the way around for that. So we'll get this all cleaned up. We'll put this valve in, and we'll put a valve seal in it, get the valve spring back on, and I'll do the other valves that are bent off camera. Alright, we're back at our engine here. Just got done. If you want to look here, bring in here. So we're back at our engine, and here you go. I got all these surfaces cleaned up around here. You want to make sure that there's no high spots. You run your finger every rib on here with your finger. Make sure you don't feel anything, no high spots, no nothing, no carbon, no leftover gasket material, nothing. So you run your finger around all this and make sure this is all clean. So then I take some carb cleaner and I'll wipe all this down so that the gasket has a mating surface that's nice and clean, that has no oil or antifreeze on it. And we'll go ahead and set that on. Got this surface nice and clean. We'll set our new head gasket on. Don't put your fingerprints that you just touched with grease and stuff. Don't put it on here, because you'll just defeat what you just did. So they are this side up, and there is an oil passage that it gets. I've seen these put on backwards. is our head gasket. You'll see that there's an oil passage right here. These can be flipped over, and that oil passage hole will be up here, and it will leak oil all over the top of the engine. And I've seen it more than once. All right, let's go ahead and get this other head on. The surface is nice and clean. Our head surface is nice and clean, same as our block surface. So we're getting ready to set this back on. Can you move that dipstick back for me? Yeah, no, back towards me. So I can get this behind it. Now it's got to go on top, yeah, like that. Oop. This goes behind here. That goes behind there. There we go. There we go. And she's on. Alright. With our head resting on here, we'll do our torque sequence and I'll go through that. We're reusing head bolts. These are our torque to yield bolt. We won't do the pre-stretch. You don't have to re-stretch them because they have already been stretched, but we are going to go ahead and reuse these. Here's all our head bolts. When you do reuse head bolts, it says don't reuse head bolts, but I've been reusing head bolts for many, many years and I've never had an issue with it. Just remember to oil your threads and or the bottom of the head and the washer when you put these in. If you look, the ones that have a dark black on the middle, those are your middles. They have a smaller washer, or a bigger washer, and then your 4 perimeters will have smaller washers. We'll go ahead and run these down now. Same sequence as before, just reversed. We are installing them, so it will be centers, upper centers, we're going to run these down. First pass, since we're not doing our initial stretch because they've already been stretched. So we're going to run these down to 7.5 foot-pounds. Okay. Doesn't take much on the first one. Then we're going to go to 29. Repeating the same sequence. Top, middle, bottom, middle, upper right, bottom left, bottom right, upper left. Then we're going to go to 51.5. Alright, we're done with the torque wrench. Next is now we have to do the degree part of it. So what we do is I like to set my torque wrench, because I'm using it as pretty much as a like a ratchet breaker bar. So I'll set it to 200 foot-pounds, and first pass is going to be all 90 degrees. So you're going to do 90 degree, 90 degree, 90 degree, all 6 bolts. Be all 90 degree. You start at your 12 o'clock, like that, and you're going to go 90 degree. Okay. Your next pass will be 45s, all of them. All right, now that you've done your 45s, the only two that get an additional 45 degrees will be your centers. Just like that. That head is torqued. All right, I'll finish cleaning this up and we'll start reassembly, and we'll just start getting this thing back in the car. All right, I am going to attempt to show you this as best as I can. Sorry, I got the hiccups. We're going to remove all the old timing system. We're going to make sure our cam gears are torqued. These get torqued to 100 foot-pounds. There is a special fixture for these. I will show you that. We got to remove the old timing components, and then we'll get the new timing components on it. With those removed, we're going to clean these up, get the remnants of the blue Loctite out of them, because you do have to blue Loctite these in. This one has an O-ring behind it. This is your belt tensioner. These get stripped out all the time because people over torque them. The new component that goes on here, the belt tensioner for the timing belt, will have an O-ring behind it, and that helps with the torque sequence when you go to put it on. This one doesn't get blue Loctite. It has an O-ring that helps secure it. but it does get a lower torque value because it does have an O-ring instead of blue Loctite. When we go to put all this together, the there is a certain way that it needs to go through everything and to put it on without damaging it. So we'll go ahead and get this cleaned up and get these torqued on at 100 foot-pounds, and we'll start getting our components on. I just use carb cleaner. It's the best stuff. It evaporates. It doesn't leave a residue. So we want to get all this out of here. So we'll blow all this out with some air. You can see that the old belt, when it broke, it was starting to shred. It has a lot of belt material in here. So there was an issue in here. And I believe it was just an old dry rotted belt that must have been sitting on the shelf for a while from Subaru. Being this is a brand new engine, all of about 8,000 miles ago. Is really disturbing that a belt would break in 8,000 miles, but it is what it is, you know. I buy and sell these Subarus all the time. 9 times out of 10 I get them blown up. You get them pretty cheap when they're blown up. Unfortunately, all the money that a Subaru is worth is in this right here. This is in the engine itself. A good running Subaru, depending on the year, between $6,000 and $15,000, depending on how many miles are on it and how well it's been kept and how decent they are. Blown up condition, engine obviously, grenaded on it, broken timing belt, rod knock, high mileage rod knock, stuff like that. Unfortunately, they're not worth much. You can get them between $600 and I don't know, $2,000 for a decent looking car, but obviously blown up. So like I said, I'll get this cleaned up and I'll be right back, and we'll start getting everything ready. All right, Dad's got my my bolts cleaned up for me, so we'll go ahead and get these installed. All right, so and put your bolt through first, and then a little bit of the Loctite on the back of on your threads like that. And this would be your lower belt guide, because it has the shoulder on the back of it. It'll be your screw these in. Always screw these in by hand. Every time I get these engines, somebody's stripped them out. There's either helicoils in them or something. Get these, and these all get over torqued and the threads ripped out of them. So same thing with the upper. Get the bolt through. A little bit of Loctite on the threads, and we'll throw it into its position. Lastly, your other one. This one has the longer bolt. Get those Loctited in. That one goes on your water pump. And these get torqued for 45 foot-pounds. This one will be up on a cam lobe. So when we go to get everything set up, this one will be under tension, so it's kind of a pain. There is a fixture for this, I just don't have it, but I'll show you how to do it. Your belt has directions. So the belt has a direction that it goes on. So your direction marks always go on your crank pulley. Okay? Sorry about that, we had a battery die. So, back to what I was saying. Your direction marks and your dotted line goes on your crank pulley, and then your timing mark on your other cogs. And once I get all this set up, I will go through wherever all the timing marks are. So. You always want to rotate these in the direction of travel, as if the engine was running. Try to do this. This being where I need it to be. So, we'll rotate you back to 12 o'clock. Right there. Rotate it towards me. There you go. Right there. There we go. All those. Pull the slack out of it. Where is the belt tensioner? Right here. Here's your belt tensioner. There's the O-ring on the back of it. You'll see it. So then we'll go ahead and get this lined up. Got all these belts on here. Pull this out a little bit. Okay. Get you started. Okay. Course. Okay. We got way too much slack in it still. There it goes. Tight, 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 tight. I'm gonna go ahead and remove this one. There it is. I don't know why I can have this one. So, get some more tension out of it. When they're new, especially with it this cold, the belts are so stiff. So. On a warm day, you don't have this much of a problem. So we'll go ahead and pull slack out of it. Like that. And then put that in here. Yeah, there we go. Now we'll line up. Always thread these in by hand. Like I said before, people like to strip these. If you use a ratchet or something like that and you torque these in, you don't feel that they are cross-threaded or whatever. You want to make sure that they are not. So. Make sure these are where they go. This one gets torqued to 40 foot-pounds. And now that we got that in, we can put this back in. Put some more Loctite on it. Come on. Every time they don't do a whole lot. Get that Loctite back in. Loctite. This will get lifted up. Start it by hand. Make sure it's not cross-threaded. You can like that, Ed. Okay, and we want to torque that to 45. That goes to 45. All right, I'll get you in here so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, if you want to give me that black Sharpie. All right. So, our timing marks is going to be this orange mark with the groove, not the white one that has no groove. It'll have a groove cut into the cam gear. All right, then your white mark from your belt, and then right here where our cam retainer plate touches our head. All these have to be lined up. Okay, if you look right here, our dotted line and arrows, our timing mark, marking it right there, all lined up. Same thing over here. There is a cut groove in the timing, in the rear timing cover, the white line, and again the grooved timing mark. Before you pull your grenade pin, we're going to make sure that these are all lined up correctly. Pull this off. 22 mil should be right there. So what we want to do is we want to rotate the engine one complete revolution, that all our timing marks line back up, not the belt. The belt will never line back up again once you move it from this position. It's like 1 in like 4,700 RPMs it'll ever line back up again. So keep in mind that you will have compression now that the valves have been replaced. Okay, that being one full revolution, you'll see our timing marks don't light up on the belt anymore, but our orange mark lines up with our split line. Our crank gear lines up with our oil pump, and our driver's side lines up with our rear timing cover. So we are in time. Now that we have our Subaru engine timed, we can go ahead and pull our grenade pin for our belt tensioner. And then if you want to hand me, there's a flat tip screwdriver right there. Okay. What you're going to do is you're not going to push down hard, but you just want to set it. And what you're going to do is you're just going to kind of give it a little help on the tension. It is hydraulic, so as the engine is running, more torque on the engine, it will raise up, and less torque, it will drop down. It always keeps the proper amount of tension on the belt at all times, but you just want to give it a little help to tighten everything up, and it helps with your timing marks if they are just a tad bit off. Now that our engine is in time and all our components are on, we can get the front of the engine dressed back up, and let's get this engine back in the car to see if it runs. And good morning to another day here at Rods and Roos Garage. I'm Dan. This being day 3, it doesn't normally take this long to repair these engines, but filming and trying to do all this stuff at the same time, trying to keep on a schedule with filming, takes quite a bit of time and away from actually just doing the work. The work is actually the easy part. Put the timing covers back on, get the engine dressed as much as we can, and get the engine back in the car. Alright, now that I got the vehicle lifted and back to the way that it was so we can reinstall this engine, we're going to continue on with the engine today. Like I said before, everything that we've done has been cleaned, inspected, repaired, or replaced. Just a reiteration of what I've said before is everything on this engine is torqued because it is aluminum. A lot of times what I've seen on these engines is people over torque the timing cover bolts. They are a shouldered bolt, so you don't have to torque them too tight because they do have a shoulder that comes to a stop. So what happens is people will over torque them and snap the end of these off in the engine, and then you have to either extract them or just leave them out. A lot of people just leave them out because they can't get them out. But these don't get torqued very much. They're only like 80 inch-pounds, so they're not very much. Like I said before, you always want to start all your bolts by hand and make sure they go in a couple 3 threads so you know that they're not cross-threaded. This is kind of a weird deal. The previous engine, I'm assuming that was here before, got a little hot, and it did warp the timing cover just a little bit, which is no big deal as long as it's not rubbing on anything on the inside of the engine. So I'm just gonna run these down. I always set my tool to the lowest setting. Like I said before, you start in the middle and work your way out. That way your little rubber gaskets don't get folded up on itself. We're going to set our inch-pound torque wrench to 80 inch-pounds. Same thing, start in the middle. We got that timing cover on. Remove our crank bolt so we can reinstall our balancer. These can only be put on one way, they are keyed. Make sure your mating surfaces are nice and clean, they're flat, there's nothing sticking off so you don't have any issues. Alright, we're going to get our crank bolt torque to specification is 95.9, but we're going to just do 96. Crank pulley bolt torque back on. Now that we got our crank pulley torque back on, we're going to go ahead and install our driver's side timing cover. And these ones going into a plastic, going into the rear timing cover, or going into an insert that's impregnated into the plastic. So a lot of people over torque these, and once you do that, you can't get the bolts back out because it destroys the impregnated metal insert, and it'll rip them out and break the timing cover. So what we're going to do next is we're going to torque these timing cover bolts to about 30 inch-pounds. They don't need to be a whole bunch. Just a snug fit is all you need. So, like I said, people over torque them, and then what they do when they over torque them is they actually break the timing cover trying to get them back out because of the metal insert that's impregnated in the plastic. It grabs onto that, and when you turn the bolt to get it out, it twists the insert and breaks the timing cover, and it's a mess. So then you got to take the timing covers off. You got to take the timing set back off. You have to take the timing sprocket off to replace that. And it's a mess. And all you have to do is just make sure they're snug. They're not going to go anywhere. Front timing covers are on. crank pulleys back on. I'm gonna turn my my lower hose, face it back up again, so when I go to put it in there, it doesn't rub against your radiator and your condenser or whatever you have going on in there, and that way you don't bend the fins on any of your condenser or your radiator, depending on the way that you've removed your engine. Some people just remove the fans and leave the radiator in. Some people remove the radiator and then you have your condenser in there, and then the clamp on the hose or the hose itself will rub against it as you're trying to lower it in there, and it'll bend the fins, so you don't want to damage either one of those components. So like that, I'll face it up so it's out of the way, and then when I get it in and installed, you can just loosen it and face it back down so you can reinstall it on the low radiator. Alright, at this time, I believe I have everything ready. I still have my throttle body connected. My knock sensor still on here, my PCV tree. I got my lower bracket on for my O2 sensors. I got my upper bracket back on for my O2 sensor plugs. My dipstick is installed. Valve covers are torqued. Spark plugs are in it. It's as dressed as I can get it to at this point, just like as we just removed it. Next we're going to clean up the exhaust manifold flanges and the bottom of the heads, because we'll be installing new exhaust gaskets, and we want to make sure those surfaces are nice and clean before we proceed. Alright, we got both exhaust flanges clean, we got both heads clean. The engine is dressed. We're going to get it ready to be placed back in the vehicle, get it off this engine stand and put it up on the cherry picker, and we'll get her in. Just like before, we'll be placing the chain back on it. Lift it up, get her in place. You want to drive and I'll guide it. Alright, go in a little bit. In, down. Anytime you're doing these EJ engines, the long reach Milwaukee electric ratchets work the best for this, the long reach. Okay, we got that one started. Go over to the other side. Get this one started. And you always want to utilize the bolts on the side of the bell housing. Don't use the top ones because it will get crooked in there, and
If it's crooked in there, you're liable to either crack a bell housing or have a misalignment on your dowels, and you can end up breaking the actual casing. So you want to draw it on. You want to draw it on. You want to draw it on straight, not cocked. Just like that. Alright, all you have to do. Alright, now that we have the engine cinched together with the transmission, we can go ahead and lower it onto the cross member and align our motor mount studs. You want to drive?
Let the jack down now?
Yep. So what we're going to do is we're going to shake it back and forth. So we'll shake it. Just like that. And it just drops straight in. Go ahead and let it all the way down. Go ahead and remove our chain. Don't need it anymore. Alright. Good thing about these engines is when you get underneath them, they're so light you can pick them up and move them. So when you get underneath there, the engine mount studs that stick through the cross member are elongated, so you can shift the engine left and right, and you just want to just make sure you center those at the bottom so the engine is centered to the vehicle. Essentially, we're just gonna do the reverse of removal. This should go pretty quick. Again, I'm gonna go through everything as far as making sure everything is torqued, being, like I said, all aluminum engine. Everything that goes back on this engine has to be torqued correctly, so you're not damaging the block or components that are bolted to it. Well, that finishes up day 2 of engine repairs. Look out for day 3 for engine reinstallment, assembly, first startup, and test drive. Once again, if you like the content on this channel, please like, subscribe, leave a comment below, share with a friend. I'm Dan from Rods and Roos. Thank you for watching. More to come.